Hello Internet, this is the Thunder Paladin, and welcome back to episode 3 in my review series of the Sacred 40 miniatures from Artistic Justice Games for the Fairytale Games Battle Royale card game. This time we're going to be looking at the Fugitives. Get ready, cause here they come. Alright ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started with the first part of the review where we talk about the characters and their backgrounds, and then later on we'll show the miniatures off and their details and what I think about the artistic design choices, so on and so forth. You know how a review works. First off, let's go ahead and get started with Sherlock. Now, he's also known as Sherlock Holmes, but in the box set he's just called Sherlock. Now, Sherlock Holmes is the first character from a Scottish author in the set that we're doing. He is from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He first had his literary debut in 1887, and he has starred in 4 different novels and 56 different short stories. That's 60 different works of fiction. A very, very prolific, very, very well-known and well-maintained, well-defined character. Now, of course, he's been very, very popular in modern mythos with several different TV shows and the lovely Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. Now, Sherlock Holmes himself as a character, at least from the original Sir Arthur Conan Doyle works, was a very eccentric character. He was very, very obsessed with personal cleanliness, but very, very untidy with his local surroundings. Alright, next up, probably not even probably, my absolute favorite character, not just in this set, but out of all 40 miniatures, one of my favorite characters of all time. Please welcome the Big Bad Wolf. Now just look at that. I cannot wait to review this miniature later on. Now, the Big Bad Wolf's earlier appearances were in Aesop's Fables and, of course, Grimm's Fairy Tales. That being said, since he was part of the Aesop's Fables, this places him as I was corrected from the last one where I thought Mulan was the oldest character in the Sacred 40. He's got her beat by a long shot. This guy is from approximately 600 BC. Now, the Big Bad Wolf has been in several different works of fiction. He's known for being in the Little Red Riding Hood story. He's been the bad guy in the Three Little Pigs. And he was the bad guy in Peter and the Wolf. Now, as you can tell, he's always the bad guy, 9 times out of 10. Now, there have been more modern takes on the character that have made him more of an anti-hero or even a good guy, mostly with tongue-in-cheek stories like The True Tale. I think it's called The True Tale of the Three Little Pigs. It's quite hilarious, cute little bit of fun. But we all know the Big Bad Wolf as the Big Bad, which is actually named after him. The idea of a animalistic, predatory villain being dubbed the Big Bad is straight from this guy right here. He started it all, and as such has a huge part in history and storytelling alike. Now, not to be upstaged by some animalistic vagabond, here we have Zorro. Now, Zorro is one of the more modern characters in the Sacred 40. He's from 1919, first introduced to us by New York author Johnston McCulley, which makes him a U.S. Fairy tale character. Now, Zorro here is also known as Don Diego de la Vega, a Californian nobleman who basically is a predecessor to Batman, is a very rich, influential character that decided to fight for the oppressed and don a black garbed gear. Now he's a jack of many trades. He's good with unarmed combat. He's good with a sword. He's good marksman with his rifle or pistol. You could even call him a pistolero, so to speak. And he's been in several different films, short stories, and novels, both in the U.S., in Mexico, and over in right across the pond in Europe. Now here we have another older character. Say hello to Beowulf. Now Beowulf is of course the title character to the Beowulf Old English long poem. thought by many to be the most important Old English piece of literature that has survived the centuries. Now that puts him from an anonymous author anywhere from the 8th to 11th century. We're not exactly sure. Now in the tale of Beowulf, Beowulf here, a very powerful fighter, almost a Herculean type character, comes to the aid of King Hroðgar, who has a villainous monster Grendel assaulting his mead hall. And in the process of the story, Beowulf is not only able to take down Grendel, but also his mother, a kind of mother of monsters type character. Now, continuing a theme that makes me very proud to have these miniatures, we're going to be introducing the female characters in the set. Please say hello to Rapunzel. Yes, Rapunzel in a fighting game. Just go with it. Now, Rapunzel is introduced in 1790 by the author Frederick Schultz. Now, it's also introduced later on and more popularized, of course, in the Grimm's Fairy Tales books, which makes her, of course, another German fairy tale. Now, in the original tale, she's raised by a witch, and at the age, she's taken from her family, by the way. Very sad story. Definitely read this tale. I absolutely love this fairy tale. And at the age of 12, she's starting to become a woman. The witch hides her up in a tower, whereby the only way to access the tower is for Rapunzel to let down her long, luxurious golden hair, so that the witch may climb it and visit with her, feed her, so on and so forth. Now, eventually, later in the tale, she runs off with a charming prince who becomes blind because of the witch. But through the power of love and Rapunzel's tears, he's able to find his sight, and they live in every version of the tale happily ever after. Now, you might know Rapunzel from one of the latest big budget films to come out of Hollywood, Into the Woods, which is, if you have not seen the play, please track it down. It's a lovely tale. It mixes and matches lots of different fairy tales, including the big bad wolf and Rapunzel here. Now, last but certainly not least, because in at least some versions of the tale, she is royalty, say hello to the Little Mermaid. I cannot wait to go into the details of this miniature. Let me tell you, just look at that. But anyway, Little Mermaid is of course written by Hans Christian Andersen, a very popular writer. He is a Danish author, and she was brought into the literary world in 1837. Now, in the tale, it's a very sad tale, but she falls in love with a surface dweller, a prince, and using the sea witch's powers, which were reviewed in our first review, she has her tongue removed by the sea witch, but in place is given legs so that she may be with and love the prince. And of course, that tale turns to tragedy, but in the very end, through the power of her love and through the power of her dedication to another person, to the doing something that she feels is right, something that she feels in her heart to do, she is given not only a second life, but her own immortal soul. Alright, first up here, we're going to be taking a look again at Sherlock. Now, Sherlock here, he's on a very fitting base. He's got the cobblestone road underneath him, and he's in a very iconic pose for Sherlock. I would say overdone, but if you're going to do something that's been done before, do it right, and that's basically what the case is here. They've put a lot of detail into this and made it very iconic. You can, like, before I even read the packaging, I could tell that this was Sherlock. He's got that detective cap on, he's got his shawl over his shoulders, he's got the wind blowing through on this lovely jacket that he has on, he's got his slacks on and his dress shoes, he's got his pipe in his hand, holding onto his cane. He's got all the iconic features of a Sherlock character. Now they've got some detailing all the way up in here in the cap here. It's got the individual little checkered detailing there, so if you were to paint over it, you'd be able to get that detail to just pop very easily. They've carried on their tradition of having very good clothing folds, like we mentioned in a lot of the characters in the last review. Very, very good clothing folds. Looks very, very real in the way that they've done it. Now, a lot of the other characters that are human have had claw marks or gashes or something wrong or tattered with their clothing. But Sherlock here, he stayed very, very professional looking, and I think that speaks a lot for the character. Next up, oh man, just big bad. Look at this guy, the big bad wolf. Look at this. Absolutely love this pose. He's got this larger than life pose going on. It's you've seen the Hulk. If you've seen any of the Marvel movies, the Hulk has taken this pose in I think every single film he's been in, where he's just hunched forward, he's got his teeth, he's just ready to go, he's got his arms hunkered down, and he is just ready to leap on something or someone. Now we got some fur detailing like we had with the beast. You go into here in his mane here, you can see all the small hair and bigger shapes here in the fur. His face has a lot of nice detailing. Let me go ahead and take a closer look at this myself. Yeah, even the individual teeth are sculpted. Just look at that. Every single tooth has been picked out by the sculptor here. He's got a very furious brow line. His mouth is hanging wide open, much like a predator. He's got some of this ripped cloth, which I loved on the beast. It's carried through here. I'm gonna put a picture up later of the beast staring this guy down. I want to see that fight. It's one of the things I'm looking forward to when the game comes out. Now his tail is kind of limp here. I kind of would have liked to see it curled up and kind of bristled up like a wild dog, but you can't have everything you want. That being said, let's talk about the basing again. He's got some loose rocks and foliage under here, but he has something very unique. Everyone else, you've seen some skulls in some of the motifs here. Not only does he have the skull, he's got some of the other bones of the body between his legs there, which makes it a little bit more gruesome, which very much suits his character. Now he's on one of the larger bases like Beast and the Sea Witch were, and that's very fitting. I wanted him to have a big beefy miniature. I'm very glad that they did that. Now he's got the really big back claws. He's got big hands. What big hands you have, Wolfie? And he does have nice claws there. The posing on the right arm here, well, his left arm, he's got his thumb tucked in. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe he's about to make a fist. Maybe they decided that a fist was too civilized for him. Let's keep the claw open. And like a lot of the other characters, he's got that big bell-like apparatus around his neck. It's kind of like a slave collar set there by the three evil queens. Alright, next up we have Zoro, another one of the human characters. That being said, they've got a lot going on here. Now, Zoro's head wrapping has these pieces, these tassels coming off into the wind. Very adventurous feel there, kind of a swashbuckler-esque feel. Now he's pictured here not only with his sword, but he also has his pistol. I'm not entirely sure, but it is definitely a revolver. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what make and model that is. Maybe somebody out here might be able to tell me what kind of pistol that might be, or it might just be a generic pistol. Now he's got some interesting armor detailing here. They've taken the time. I'm pretty sure this is probably leather armor. They've taken the time to show the raised lip here on the pauldrons, and on some of the other leather detailing. They got some nice. He doesn't have the cuffed boots, but not everybody can have cuffed boots. Can't be that awesome all the time. But he does have some unique boots. Got some detailing here going up the sides. Looks like those are actually spats too. I'm not sure. No, that's just a. Okay, that was just the mold line. Oh no, actually, I don't know. Maybe Artistic Justice can tell me if those are spats or not. I'm not sure. Now this version of the character seems to have some facial hair rocking out, and he's the first one besides, well, sorry, second one to have facial hair. First one was Hook. Now on the base here, I like that they've got a little story going on. They've got that peasant's hat down at the base, right there. Like he has taken that off and revealed his true nature. Very much in the films I've seen at least, where he likes to go around disguising himself as a villager, as a peasant. And I like that they put that in there into his base. Now, next up, probably the most interesting human when it comes to the sculpting is Beowulf. Beowulf here has almost an anime-esque exaggeration going on here, both with the spikes on his armor and the size of his blade. Now look at that pose. That is the classic hero awaiting adventure pose. Looking off into the distance, sword at the ready, slung over his shoulder, wind in his hair, wind in his clothing there. He's got his larger pauldron. I think he's only got the one pauldron. Yeah, he's only got the one pauldron facing forward, which is smart tactically. Look at those giant spikes he's got, though. Those are actually sharp, by the way. You could kill a man with that. Be very, very slow, but I'm sure you could kill a man. Now he's got the spikes going down also into his leg armor, and those are made out of several different smaller plates. He's got some nice detailing here on his belt, and I really, really do like that. Looks kind of tribalistic, which makes sense for the older character that he is. Now those pecs are also very well defined, the musculature in the torso. Very well defined here. You can see that up in the sides. Now he's clean shaven. Look at all the detail they've got in his individual hairs up here. I really do like that. Now he's got the slave color as well, it's just a smaller version. And here on the back you can see there's some detailing going all around the belt. I would probably try to paint that probably like a silver or a gold and put that in there like a filigree or an etching. Really do like that. His base is rather generic, but that's okay because they've taken a lot of time to put these interesting shapes into his actual miniature. You got a rocky base that might be either dirt or sand there between the rocks. And there's Beowulf. Lovely. Now speaking of lovely, here we have Rapunzel. Now Rapunzel, even though it's a fighting game, even though she's got these weapons tied up into her hair to make her kind of a martial artist type character, like the I'm reminded of the Oriental weapon, the dagger and rope, the rope and dagger, where it looks like she's even got it in her hand here. You see she's holding on to her links of hair, like she's going to be swinging them around and trying to stab people from afar. And that kind of makes sense for her. She's not the bulkiest of characters. She's not the most well suited for combat, so it makes sense that they'd give her a type of combat that she could handle using her strong points, her hair, keeping her out of range. I think very much kind of like I'm thinking a lot of the Disney film Tangled, where she was able to use her hair to kind of like combat people. Now they got this grass detailing on the base, and she has ankle bracelets, and well, she also has the collar. I think they all have the collar sculpted in. It's just more well defined on her. Now look at her face. Now you don't want to put too much detail when you're trying to make a beautiful feminine face. You just want to keep the curves there, and they've done that, and they framed her face very well with the luxurious hair around it. Now if we go into her clothing, she has a very simple dress on, which makes sense. She lives in a tower in the middle of nowhere. But they have given her you have to notice as a red-blooded American male that she is leaning forward and she has a lot of cleavage exposed. Now, anyone wanting to buy the set for that, I say go for it. She's absolutely gorgeous. She's a very, very sexy miniature. She's got the lithe legs up on the toe point there, and from the back, it's a little less obvious about all the weapons. Look at that here. Now you can see there's even some separated braiding there in the back. I absolutely love that. Now finally, last but not least, going back to the Little Mermaid, and just look at what they've done here with the posing and with the shapes here. Now for the base, it makes sense that they'd keep that water, but they took it a step further, and man did they okay. Now last but definitely not least among the pack, we're going back to the Little Mermaid. Now just look at all the interesting shapes we have going on here. The motif they've been able to take the basing, which was water, makes sense for the character, and pull that all the way up into this tidal wave that she's conjuring here. Go ahead and get a full look at that there. That curve is magnificent. And it's got the same curve on the other side with the almost like a spell she's casting with her other hand. Now she's got the trident, which is an allusion to the Disney version of the character where her father possessed such a trident. And we've got some interesting armor going on here, mostly made out of seashells. Now the original mermaids of lore were usually naked, and they can't do that for this kind of all ages appropriate game, but they were able to put some allusions into the character. From the Little Mermaid, the Disney version, they've got the seashell bra going on. Now she also has different shells here for her knee pads, and then some armor going down from that. And she's got an armored waistline here with what looks like the remnants of a fishing net, which makes a lot of sense. I think it's kind of a cool idea since they don't usually wear clothing to have most of her clothing made out of stuff that you'd find in the ocean. Now she's got some detailing here on her arms, looks like some kind of primitive jewelry. And her hair has a lot of interesting detail in it. Just take a look there at the individual strands. Now it's not as neat as Rapunzel's, which makes sense. You know, she's underwater, she's a swimmer. And they have her hair done up in a bun, which is unique to this sculpt as opposed to most ways that you see the Little Mermaid. But in the same set as Rapunzel, you don't want to have both characters looking alike. So that was a smart choice as far as I'm concerned. Alright, there you have it. Thank you very much for watching my review on the Fugitives. Now next time, we're going to be diving into another 8-pack. Next time, get ready for the Children of Magic. A sneak peek there, we're going to be having such iconic characters as Tinker Bell, Alice in Wonderland, and King Arthur himself. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Bye-bye.